Today we're doing a review on this crazy, magnificent beast that is the Samyang 14mm F2.8. We're breaking down everything that's important so you can decide whether this crazy thing is going to be good for you. Let's go! Alright guys, so today we're talking about the Samyang 14mm F2.8, and this is the AF series lens. It's an autofocus lens from Samyang, and it's one of their first lenses. It's pretty crazy, and I can't help but love this lens. It's definitely not for everybody. It's definitely very extreme, as you can see here. There's really no hiding from this lens. But we're going to break it down as usual, everything that's important, the build, the performance, the value, and all that good stuff, so you can figure out if it's going to be right for you. And guys, if you haven't seen one of my videos before, my name's Stefan Malik and I do a lot of photography and filmmaking news reviews and tutorials. So if you do enjoy this content, if you like this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get into build. So here's a quick unboxing and a look at the build and features of this lens. It doesn't come with much, but Samyang has included a cheap little carrying case and a bit of paperwork. The build is a little bit different than your typical lens. It has a built-in lens hood that can't be removed, and the lens cap actually fits over that lens hood. It does attach nice and securely, easily, but do note that there are no filter threads on this lens, so if you were planning to use it for landscape photography, for example, you're not going to be able to put any filters on it. Unlike the Canon and Nikon mount versions of this lens, there are no buttons or switches whatsoever. Measuring only 3.8 inches long, this lens is a fantastic size. It is a little bit hefty at 500 grams or just over a pound, but it does feel very well made and put together. Maybe it's that big, protruding, pristine front glass element, but I just love the look of this lens. Its metal build is also complemented with a nice metal mount, but unfortunately, Samyang has left out a little rubber gasket for additional confidence when it comes to weather sealing. So when it comes to build and features as a whole, it's a decent enough lens, but there are just a few things that kind of bug me about it. For example, a little rubber gasket would have been appreciated, and sure, it's tough to add some filter threads, but not impossible. As well, I'd really like to see Samyang improve the quality of their focus ring a little bit. Because of all these factors, I give it 3.5 stars for build. So when it comes to value, like a lot of Samyang's or Rokinon lenses, there's lots of value here. You can typically find this lens between $450 and $600 US, and for a fast ultra-wide of this quality, you're going to be hard-pressed to find something else. There is an older, completely manual focus version of this lens for cheaper, so if you're just focusing on stills and autofocus is not a must, I would check this one out. But rating this lens as a whole when it comes to value, it's an easy 4 stars. So yeah, obviously this lens is not going to be for everybody. It is kind of a very specific type of lens. As a vlogging lens, it's kind of a little bit much if you ask me. That would be kind of me holding the camera there. And maybe a little bit too wide for vlogging, but it is a very kind of neat lens when it comes to just being creative, because you're really forced to put yourself in situations where you wouldn't with most lenses. It's just an ultra wide lens and it can create some really cool distortion effects. It's going to be great for maybe landscapes, to really get some epic scenes, to fit a lot of stuff in there. It's going to be great for things like real estate, of course, and you know, just getting creative and having some really just weird, warpy, kind of fun effects with whatever your mind can come up with. So yeah, absolutely, this lens is definitely not for everybody, and there are some pros and cons to it, like everything, but yeah, I can't help but kind of love this lens. So let's dig into a bit of the performance now. And when it comes to autofocus, this thing might surprise you a little bit. By no means is it made for video, but its autofocus for video is actually pretty decent. It's not the world's fastest, but it's quite accurate and basically silent. I put it through some of the most scientific and rigorous testing that you could possibly imagine, as you can see here. But honestly, for video and definitely stills, it gets a thumbs up when it comes to autofocus. So as far as focal length goes, I don't think this lens is a filmmaker's dream, but you could get some cool shots if you were creative. Let's have a quick look at the optics and sharpness of this lens. You'll notice here, wide open at f2.8, that it does suffer from some pretty heavy vignetting and quite a bit of distortion that you'd expect of a wide angle lens like this. With the profile correction turned on in Lightroom, there's a big, quick, and noticeable difference. But when it comes to sharpness, in the center, wide open at 2.8, it is fairly nice, but it does start to lose sharpness pretty quick as you get into the corners. The corners are anything but impressive. Stop down to f4 for, unfortunately, not that much difference. And this continues all the way down from f5.6, f8, even f11. There's really no point in this lens where the corners are impressively sharp. So if corners are an issue for you, even down to f14, which is probably going to be its best, there's still really nothing special. Sharpness in the center is pretty decent for this lens, and if you're like me and most people, we're not really too concerned with the corners, especially when they're going to be stretched and distorted when you have something like a 14mm. The bokeh, or bokeh as I'm getting flack for lately, is decent. It's a 2.8 with 7-bladed aperture, but it's going to be hard to get mind-blowing blurriness out of such a wide-angle lens. The 2.8 is nice if you're doing something like astrophotography or working indoors, but for the most part I think you're going to use this lens more stop down. If I were to rate performance as a whole for this lens, I like the autofocus. It's great, it's quiet, it's snappy, it's fun to shoot with a crazy ultra wide prime, and the fast f2.8 aperture is nice. I give this thing 4 stars for performance. So wrapping up, if you're in the market for an ultra wide angle on a budget, this lens is going to tick a lot of your boxes. As usual, here's my personal pros and cons for this lens. And rating the Samyang AF 14mm f2.8 as a whole, given everything that we've talked about here, I give it 4 stars. And if you're a subscriber, you also know that I like to rate things on a scale from never think about again to consider to definitely buy. And today this ultra wide beast is going to be a consider. Consider this lens if you're creative, love epic landscapes, astrophotography, or you shoot real estate. So there it is, there's my review, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. If you want to pick this lens up, check the affiliate links in the description. And like always, make mistakes, be yourself, and get out there and take some more pictures. See you in the next one.